Welcome. Hi, my name is Lisa Hanigan, and this is designed to be a really beginner practice. So if this is the first time you've ever attempted yoga, this is your class. And even if you're a more experienced yogi, you can always make things deeper, or if you know what you're doing, just hold it longer. So welcome and congratulations on taking this first step. So this morning we're going to start seated position, which is what I usually start, just to do a little centering to make sure you're totally present with your physical body, because a lot of us spend a lot of time in our head and we're thinking about things other than being totally in the moment. So we always start with a centering. And then I wanted to mention a couple things. It's really nice if you have a couple of yoga blocks to help you through the practice, because it just makes things a little bit easier, brings the floor to you. And when you use yoga blocks, you have 3 heights. So this is low, this is medium, and this is high. So when you're first starting, you might want to leave them on high, but you can always adjust them if it's not needed. And then the other thing that I want you to have for sure is a blanket. A wool blanket works best because it doesn't shift as much. And I like to use the blanket to sit on, and then we may use it to bring under our knee if we have knee issues. So put your blanket down, and you can bring it, you might need it a little higher. If you can fold it twice, or you can use 2 blankets. But then you want to sit right on the edge of the blanket. And our goal is to sit right on those 2 sits bones so that you can feel the floor underneath you. Now, if your hips are so tight that it doesn't allow it, the higher you get, i.e. folding the blanket again or adding another blanket really helps. So the goal is to get our knees at the same height or somewhat lower than our hips. So feel the sits bones. You should always feel there's a natural curve in your low back. That's just something that all of us have, this lumbar curve. And so you always want to keep that. What happens when you get really tight is we round. So if you're sitting rounded, that's not going to do you any good. So I want you to think, okay, I want to be able to sit up tall, keep that curve, press down into my sit bones and lengthen my spine. So try that. See if you feel long in your spine. In fact, every pose, I want you to think, I want to keep a long spine. And a long and flexible spine. That's what keeps us young and healthy. And then just place your hands on your thighs, upper thighs. Now for some of you, men especially, but a lot of times women too, it just really isn't comfortable at all to sit like this. And that's when you might want to sit on a block or even 2. Let me just show you how that works. So you can bring 2 blocks and you just come to your knees, stretch your feet long, or even keep them curled under, and then sit back on them. Then you can still find your sits bones. I'm going to turn them the long way, because then I can feel both my sits bones, and I can sit up tall and keep the curve in my low back. For a lot of people, this is more comfortable than sitting on a blanket to start, or maybe forever. I know some men that have been doing yoga for many years, and this is always the way they sit to start. So I also have a friend, Iris, that likes to start that way as well. So find your nice seat, whatever it may be, hands on your thighs, and then just close your eyes and simply watch your breath. So when I say watch your breath, I mean just notice your inhalation, how it comes in cooler through the nostrils, comes down through the trachea into the lungs. And then as you exhale, it retraces those steps comes out through the nostrils again. Maybe it feels warmer. But just really notice your complete breath. And then just on this next one, feel the expansion of your rib cage and maybe of your belly as you breathe in. And maybe they recede a little bit as you breathe out. And try and deepen your breath somewhat. Many of us, we only use a fraction of our lung space because that's all we need. And I want you to get used to using more capacity of your lungs. So don't force the breath in and out. Just think to yourself, I'm just going to open the lungs, lengthen the spine, and allow room for a full, complete breath. And take 3 long, slow, deep breaths in that way. Just really noticing each part of the breath, how your body expands and contracts and responds to the breath. You can even use all of your senses to notice the breath. So see if you can visualize the air coming in, moving down, and moving back out. You don't actually see it, but you can visualize it. What does air look like in your mind's eye? You can hear the air flowing in and out with the breath. You can smell and maybe even taste the air, the breath. And you can definitely feel the breath. Feel whether it's cool or warm. Feel the texture of the breath. Maybe you can even detect the humidity of the air that you're breathing in and out. And then just allowing your breath to go back to normal. Bring your hands to heart center. And now just feel each finger touching the opposite hand finger. May we all really appreciate our bodies, our breath, and the day. We have so much to be thankful for. May we notice all the blessings and grace that's around us all the time. And please lower your hands, open your eyes. Okay, let's warm up our wrists and our shoulders a little bit before we transition, and maybe our legs and our feet a little bit as well, ankles. So just start with your hands on your thighs like this. Just lift the shoulders, roll them back, and then forward, and just kind of make a big circle. I want you to keep the back of your neck nice and long as you do this. And just keep rolling the shoulders. And then switch directions. And do it 5 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, and pause. Keep your spine nice and long. Lift your right hand up and just kind of lightly press down as you resist. And then go the opposite direction. Just warm up the wrists. You can do that again, just a couple times. And then switch hands. And back. And forward. And back. Good. Now, bring the hands behind you. Lean back and stretch your legs out in front of you. Stay on your blanket though, because I want you to just notice, does it feel like you have to round your back to sit like this? So if you do, keep a little baby bend in your knees. And then you're just going to lift your right ankle up and bring it across your left thigh. Now this is multitasking yoga because you're feeling an opening in your hip, but we're going to actually work on our foot. So do this for me. Flex your foot. So bring the toes towards your shin and then point it. And then do that again. Flex and point. Good. And then just bring it to a neutral position. I'm going to have you interlace your fingers in between your toes. So just do that. For some people, this is really excruciating, and it used to be for me. So if it is, just do maybe fingertips. You don't have to get them so far in between there. Just do what feels like a nice stretch for you. And then once you have it, just kind of move the toes forward and back. This is really good for your feet. We have a lot of muscles in our feet and tiny bones too. And we get kind of frozen there because we wear these cushy shoes and our muscles don't have to work that much. And so it's really good to spread the toes. And then just kind of think, I'm going to spread the fingers apart, make it a little wider, squeeze the foot like you're giving it a handshake. And then release it, and let's switch sides. So now bring the left ankle across, flex and point, flex and point. One hip might feel a little different than the other hip, which is totally normal. We all have, I call it your special side. This is my special side. And then interlace the fingers in between the toes. Move the toes up and down, just kind of around a little bit. Some people this is so easy for, and others it really doesn't feel good. And then broadening the fingers a little bit, give your foot a nice handshake. You can rub the arch if you want. And then bring the toes out and just see if it feels a little different in your feet. Good. Now, come up off the blanket. Move these to the side for a moment. You can set your blanket off to the side, and I want you to come to what I call an all fours position. So your hands are going to be placed, and when you place your hands, a lot of times what people do is they'll put all the weight right in the base of their wrist. What I want you to do is try and spread the weight evenly on the fingertips, the finger mounds, and all parts of the hand. So maybe the only part that's not bearing weight is right in the middle. And your wrist is going to be right under your shoulders. And the fingers are going to be spread a little wider because that gives you a better base. And then your knees come right under your hips. And then just notice that position. So a lot of times people get here and they'll feel like they're saggy. I want you to draw your low ribs up a little bit. Keep the curve in your back, but think, I'm going to lengthen my spine. Did you see the difference there? So I'm really lengthening. And then just kind of move in a circle. You'll feel a little bit more stretch in your wrists, in all your joints, your shoulder joints, your hip joints. And then switch directions. And then pause. And I want you to do a couple poses we call cat and cow. So you're going to start with your tailbone and just think, I'm going to lift that up and then slowly work up my spine. So I'm making a big curve in my spine. The last thing to lift is my head. And then you're going to go the opposite direction. So start again with the tailbone and just round now. Press the floor down and away with your hands. Tuck your chin at the end. This is called cat. And the other pose is called cow. So start again with your tailbone, slowly making the big curve in your low back, coming into cow pose, and then rounding, starting with the tail, pressing, tucking the chin, round to cat. And just do that one more time. So on your inhale, think cow. And on the exhale, cat. Good. Now bring your knees a little bit wider. Bring your big toes together and stretch your feet long. And then just sit back. Now if your knees don't allow this, you can just stay upright here. Or if your knees allow it and you can sit all the way back, do. And this is called child's pose. And I want you to think of your arm bones always lifting up. So it feels like a shoulder stretch as well. This is a favorite pose for a lot of people because it feels like a really nice stretch, but it's relaxing as well. Gives your hands a little rest here now. Take one more breath there. Breathe deep right into the low belly. And then make your way back up to all fours. Make sure the knees are right under the hips. Hands under shoulders. Good, now go ahead and extend the right leg. A lot of times what happens is people kind of lift that right hip higher. I want you to keep it the same height as your left hip. And feel like you're going to pull the right leg into the socket and keep your spine nice and long. Good. Now just set the ball of the foot down there and just press back a little bit. You'll feel a little stretch in your calf, in your Achilles. Good. And then pick the foot up and now bring it across and to the outside of your foot. So it looks like this. I'm going to do it the opposite way so I mirror you. So you're on the ball of the foot. I think you can see that. And you want to keep your spine nice and long. So draw the low ribs towards each other a little bit and lengthen your spine. And then just maybe twist and look at the foot. Good, and then come on back and we'll switch sides. So now extend the left foot straight back. Draw that leg into the socket so you feel your core engage. Don't lift the left hip higher. Keep it the same height as your right one. Good. Warms up your core and then press that foot down through the ball of the foot. So give your toes a stretch again. Stretch through the calf. Good, and then bring it up and across to the right side. Step, make sure you're on the ball of the foot. And then I always have to pause here and think long spine. And then twist and look. Good. And unwind. Good, and bring your knees wide. Sit back to child's pose. This time just stack your hands under your forehead. Or if your knees don't like that position, keep the knees right under the hips, keep the butt up, and stack. One more breath. And then make your way back up to all fours. And we're going to try one more thing here. So you're going to extend your right leg again. Same thing, keep it the same height as the left hip. Use your core muscles. And then see, okay, can I keep balanced enough to extend my left arm? So right leg, left arm. See if you can find strength in the core. And then release the hand and the knee. And switch sides. So left leg extends and right arm. Use your core, lengthen your spine. And release. Good. Now come up, grab your blocks and bring them on either side of your, and just bring your hands on the blocks. So you're in all fours position, but your blocks are perhaps a little bit wider than shoulder. And just step your right foot up between the blocks. And then just feel that. You might, if it feels like your right knee is behind your ankle, then move your left knee back a little bit so that you feel like your right knee is right on, I'm going to move this so you can see. Right ankle is above, or right knee is above right ankle. And that's where you want to keep it. You don't want it to go in front of, because then your knee's unstable. So you always just want to do it either right above or maybe a little bit behind. Good, now feel that. A lot of people have issues with this position because their kneecap hurts. So the blanket comes in handy. You want it on kind of a low, and you can bring that under your knee just to add a little cushion there for your kneecap. And then hug the heel and the knee towards each other. Bring your hands to your front knee. You're going to feel a stretch right in your hip flexor right here. And then pause for a moment. Slide your hips back and walk your blocks back. Some of you might have to have your blocks on high here. And you're just going to straighten your right leg. Press this heel down. I'm going to move this so you can see. Press this heel down. Draw the leg into the socket. You'll feel a big stretch on the back of your leg. And notice how I have my foot flexed. And then a little baby bend in my knee, because I don't want to hyperextend my knee here. So I keep a little baby bend. I keep my hips square to the front. And then maybe I can stretch the toes and get a little ankle stretch as well. Good, and then bend back into the front knee and step that knee back however you can. It's easier if you're on the blocks. And step the left foot forward. So same thing. You need the blanket under your knee, you can use it. Make sure the left knee is above the left ankle. Hug to the midline, the hips stay square to the front. I always think if I press my heel and my knee towards each other, it helps me to stay lifted. Maybe I bring my hands to the front thigh to stretch it out, this hip flexor out a little bit. But I always want to lengthen my spine. I always say lengthen up through the top of your head. Your head's an extension of your spine. Good. And then sliding your hips back, straightening the left leg now. Moving this box so you can see. I keep a baby bend. I press the heel down. I pull the leg into the socket. I stretch. If I have a lot of flexibility, I can stretch over that leg. So it's just something you work towards. Now, if you want to, you can stretch the toes straight towards the floor. Big stretch. Good, bend back into the front knee and come back to that all fours position. Hands on the blocks. And then just use the blocks to help you come up to a standing position. So hopefully you can see me here. I have my kind of a cross shape so it works. Good, and so standing, you think, oh, that's just standing. Well, it's actually a yoga pose. It's called Tadasana, which means mountain pose. So just like we were talking about earlier with the curve in your low back, you want to keep that. So a lot of times people stand like this because they're so tight in their hamstrings and their quads that this is what happens. So I want you to put a little baby bend in your knees and kind of stick your butt back and think, I'm going to make that curve in my low back. And then I'm going to re-straighten the legs, but I'm going to lengthen my spine. So I draw my low ribs towards each other and I stand up tall. Now notice how when you do it that way, you're working your legs. So it's almost like your leg muscles are giving the bones a hug. And you feel like you're on all four corners of your feet. So inside of heel, outside of heel, big toe mound, little toe mound. And I'm isometrically trying to hug my shins towards each other, but lifting the arch. So it's a lot to think about, and really, so a lot of times what people do is they'll make that curve in their back, and they'll forget about this part. So you have to draw the ribs back, and then stand up straight. I don't know if you can see that. Good, and then once you have that, stretch your arms up over your head. So your feet are about hip distance apart. You want to stay nice and tall. And then bring your right hand to your hip so that you want to keep the right side of your body nice and long. Draw the back of your neck long, all the way tall through the top of your head. Now keep weight in both feet and arc. Good. On your next inhale, come up and switch sides. So left hand to the hip, right arm up. Keep weight in both feet. Keep that nice long stance or height and arc. Good. And then come on back up. Stretch both arms up again. And bring hands to heart center. Interlace your fingers now and press your palms forward. Keep the low ribs drawing towards each other. Lengthen up through your spine and then stretch your arms up with your palms stretching up. Should feel a little bit different stretch. Good, now feel nice and tall here. And then release the hands. Keep the length in the side body. Stretch the arms behind you. Keep your heart lifted, your ribs drawing towards each other, and then release the arms to the side. Good. Now what we're going to do is stand between the blocks and do that. So stretch the arms up. Palms face each other, even look up maybe. And then reach down and touch the blocks. I'm going to have you bring it to highest height. And what I want you to make sure is that you're not rounding your back to get as low as you can. This is what I see a lot. And I'd rather have you do this. Bend your knees a little bit. Stick your butt back behind your heels. Lengthen your spine. And then try to re-straighten your legs. Good. This is called a forward fold. And now bring the blocks back by your feet. Keep your spine nice and long. Step your left foot back all the way to a deep lunge. Again, the knee comes right above the ankle, not in front of. The hips stay square to the front. And then you try and keep that curve in your back, but lengthen your spine. Good. And then step forward and switch sides. Right foot back. You might have to keep a bend in your knee if you're feeling really a lot of pull here, but try and keep the curve, lengthen the spine, and stretch. Good. Please step forward. Bend your knees. Bring your hands on your knees and sit down a little deeper. So when you sit, I don't want your knees to go forward. I want your knees to stay approximately above your ankles. So you're sitting your butt back a little bit. So if this is all the further you can go, fine. Just keep your spine engaged, your ribs hugging towards each other. And then see, maybe you can lift your arms forward. Good. And then push into all four corners of your feet and stand up. Bring hands to heart center. Well done. Okay, now I'm going to have you you're going to have to turn sideways on your mat and take a wide stance. And when I say wide, I mean if you brought your arms up, your wrists are about above your ankles. And your feet are parallel to the sides of your mat. You might have to, and just notice, if you bend your knees, do your kneecaps and your toes point the same direction? That's key here. And then actually just bend your knees slightly, bring your hands on your knees, lengthen your spine. And then see if you can engage all four corners of your feet. What happens a lot is our arch kind of falls. So if you press your big toe mound, your little toe mound, inside of heel and outside heel down, you're going to feel your muscles hug on your bones and you can stand back up. Good. Now turn your right foot out, so it's 180 degrees. And if you drew a line from your heel back, it would bisect either in the arch or heel to heel. Good. And now bend into that knee, track it straight. Bring your hands on your hips. A lot of times what will happen here is if you bend too deep is this back hip will pop forward. I don't want it to pop forward, so I'd rather have you round a little bit in the back, keep this hip back, and then stand up again. And then think core, nice tall spine, and maybe bring your arms out. This is a pose called Warrior Two. See if you can stay for 3 more breaths. Make sure the knee tracks straight. If it goes in or out, it's hard on the knees. So you want to track it straight and either have it the knee be behind the ankle or right over it, not in front of it. If it's in front of it, then you've gone too far. It's unstable. Good. Now on your next inhale, straighten the front leg and reach your right hand down onto your knee and your left hand up. I want you to keep this much length in your spine. You can always slide the hand a little bit more, but your right shoulder or your left shoulder should be stacked on your right shoulder. Draw the ribs back a little bit. Good, and then inhale, come back up, bend into the front knee. Warrior Two again. Release your arms. Turn that foot in. And just step your feet together for a moment. You can shake out your legs because that's a lot. And then we'll switch sides. Step back out wide. Make sure they're straight. Kneecaps, toes point the same direction. What happens is if the knees point in, you're probably collapsing in your arches. If the knees point out, you're probably using the outer muscles too much, so you want to just kind of balance it. Good, now turn the left foot out. Check your alignment. Bend into the front knee. Track it straight. If you can still see your big toe, you're probably tracking it straight. And then think, okay, this hip can't pop forward. I'm just gonna move it back a little bit And then lengthen my spine, extend the arms, warrior two. You can always start a little bit out and go deeper. Try and stay for 3 more breaths. You can gaze out over your left hand. This is the traditional warrior. Good, and then let your arms come down. Press into your front foot to straighten that leg. Arms back out. And then just wherever it feels like a nice stretch for you, if you can keep your right shoulder above your left, that's ideal. Keep your spine nice and long. A lot of times what people do is scrunch up this side of their body. I want you to keep both sides of the body nice and long. So if you need to press into the hand, you can. Good, and then come on back up. Let your arms rest, turn the feet in, and then step your feet together. Whew, good job. Come on down to a seated position again. This is where you might need your blanket again. I think I'm going to have all of you sit on your blanket and extend your legs. And again, just think, I want the sits bones back. Sometimes I'll do this. Watch. So when I first sit, I feel like this. I feel rounded. So if I bring my fingertips behind me, I feel the sits bones and I shift to one sits bone and I'll pull that leg back into the socket more. And then I'll shift to that leg and pull that leg back, and then it feels like I'm sitting up taller. And it feels like the sits bones are underneath me further. So that's ideal. So, and you always want your kneecaps and your toes to point upward, so they're not just kind of getting lazy and just kind of going like this and your back round. So you want to think tall. Good, now just bend your right knee and bring the foot right in line with that sits bone. Interlace your hands and just kind of hug your shin in and up so that you can feel your spine get taller. Good, now let go with your right hand and bring it behind you and slide your elbow around the shin or the knee. And stay tall. You're not leaning to that side, you're staying tall. And then just think, every inhale I'm going to stay tall, and every exhale I'm going to draw my belly away and twist. So inhale tall, exhale twist. And unwind. Good job. I'm going to take off my sweater, I'm hot. And let's switch sides. Now bending the left knee, interlace. Just kind of pull the shin in and up. That's going to help you to get taller. Keep that. Bring the left hand behind you. Slide the elbow around that knee. And then think tall, and then maybe twist. Don't let your arms crank you around. Let the twist be in your core muscles. So they're the ones doing the work and helping you into this twist. Good, and then please unwind. Stretch that leg long. Make sure your feet are hip distance apart again. If you put a little baby bend in your knee to start, think sits bones pressed down, heels pressed down. The knees don't have to be straight, and especially since you're in this position. And then maybe you just bring your hands behind you and work on sitting up tall, opening your heart a little bit, lengthening your spine, lengthening up through the top of your head. Now if that feels super easy to you and you want to try, notice how my feet are really active when I'm doing this. You want to keep your feet and legs, that hugging action going. Now if this feels super easy and you want to stretch deeper, just walk your fingertips forward. Keep thinking long spine, sits bones grounded, with that really nice long spine. Maybe I can fold forward. It's important that you don't round your low back. You keep that lengthened. You can round your upper back. Take a couple breaths. It's like a forward fold, but you're seated. And then come on back up. And then we're just going to do that same thing, only with a wide stance again. So again, kneecaps and toes point up. Now if they don't, here's what I like to do. I like to think, okay, I'm going to inner spiral this leg. So I kind of push down on the inner leg and up on the outer leg so I can get that sits bone underneath me, and do that with both sides. And then maybe you just sit, the tall spine, just lengthening. If that's enough stretch on your hamstrings, on your back. Or if it's really easy for you, just play with folding forward. Try not to round the low back. Keep the low back nice and long. I always think if I have my rib cage really engaged and lengthening, the back of my neck long, then I can always go a little further. This is what happens when you've been practicing for 15 years. You can go all the way forward. And then come on back up. I want to do one little core strengthener. So move off your blanket and sit with your knees bent. And just bring your hands behind your knees to hang on. And then here again, I want you to think, I'm going to lengthen my spine, lift my heart, and then lean back so your arms are full length. I keep the back of my neck lengthened. I lengthen up through the top of the head. Then maybe I lift the heels, lean back a little more. And possibly I can lift the shins. Use your core muscles. Maybe even extend the legs. And if that still feels pretty stable, you can let go. This is called boat pose or Shavasana. If it doesn't feel stable, just hang on. Lift your heart, lengthen your spine, and then release it. Good, you can practice that as much as you want. That's always a good core strengthener. Then one more core strengthener. Lay on your back with your knees bent. Your feet should be approximately hip distance and right under your knees. And when you lay down, notice if you have a little curve in your low back. If you don't, you want a neutral pelvis. So if you put your thumbs on your rib cage and on the tops of your hip points, that should approximately be equal. Now do this, press the low back down. Notice how the pelvis tilts up. And then go the opposite direction. Let the ribs lift and find that neutral position. That's what you want, is that neutral position, but your core engaging. Now keep that, bring your shins up, flex your feet. Neutral position, bring your hands on your thighs. And now you're just gonna press away and up a little bit and resist with your knees. And you should be able to breathe through this. You don't want to push so hard that you're really working. You'll feel it in your core. This engages. And then release, hug your knees into your chest. This is called abdominal bracing, and it's super important to strengthen those abdominal muscles for your back. So let's do it one more time. So bring the shins up parallel to the floor, flex the feet, bring both hands on the right knee this time. And find that neutral pelvis, engage those abdominal muscles, and push away and up just with that right knee. Good. And relax. Switch sides. Both hands on the left side. Push away and up. Resist. Use your core muscles. And release it. This time bring both feet flat. And bring your arms, I call this a cactus position or goalpost. If that's not comfortable for your shoulders, just extend your arms out to the side. And then you're just going to walk your feet as wide as your sticky mat. And then I'm going to turn this way so you can see. So my feet are as wide as the sticky mat. And I'm just going to bring my right knee towards my left ankle. Now it may not come all the way down, probably won't, because I want you to keep a curve in the low back and just feel kind of a release here. And then bring that knee up and switch sides. So now left knee towards right ankle. And then switch again. And bring the knee up and switch again. We call this windshield wiper. Now this time you're going to bring both knees up and bring both knees to the right or to the left. And then bring knees up and over to the right. And one more time each side. And then bringing both feet up, or knees up. Keep the left knee bent. Interlace your hands behind your right thigh. And press your thigh into your hands. Again, you want to keep that neutral spine so it kind of feels like there's a little curve in your low back. And then see what happens if I try and straighten this leg. You don't have to straighten it all the way, but do keep pressing. So it feels like the hips are even. The right hip's pressing forward. Good, now if that still feels good and your leg's straight, maybe you can extend the left leg and keep that left thigh grounded down. If it doesn't go down, bend the knee. So just do what feels like a nice stretch for you. And then release that leg and let's switch. So the right knee stays bent, interlace behind the left. Press, lengthen, keep the curve, but keep extending the left hip forward. And maybe extend the right leg. Your choice. Good, and then release that leg. Bring the knees bent again. Bring the soles of the feet together. And let the knees open wide. This is called butterfly pose or Supta Baddha Konasana. And I like here to just bring my hands on my belly. Just let gravity do its job. Should still feel a little curve in the low back. Notice how I still have the curve. Just notice the breath moving in and out of your belly. Good, and then please close your knees. And now we're going to Shavasana, which means corpse pose. So it's just a resting pose now. So you stretch your legs long. I'm going to show you this way. I like to bring my feet slightly apart so that I can just let my feet naturally open where they want to. And then the same thing with the arms. Bring them off to the side a little bit, palms facing up. And if it feels better for you to have a blanket under your head, you can. I like to put my blanket on my upper thighs just to have a little weight there. You should still feel a little curve in your low back. So Shavasana, the goal of Shavasana is to totally relax now, but still stay present with your body. So please close your eyes. I'm just going to talk you through a little bit more of a deeper relaxation. So finding your breath, just like we did at the beginning. Soften the muscles around your ears. Let your eyeballs just rest in the sockets. Allow your teeth to part just slightly and let the jaw relax back in the socket. With every exhale, just make it your goal to relax a little deeper. Please relax the neck and the shoulders. Relax your arms all the way down through your hands to your fingertips. Relax your chest, your upper back. Relax your belly and your low back. Let your pelvis relax, your legs, upper legs, knees, calves, feet. Allow your bones to just feel super heavy, like they're weighting you down, grounding you to the earth. And allow the muscles and the ligaments to just relax and slide off the bone now. And stay with your breath. Every exhale, relax a little deeper. The goal of yoga is to bind together your mind, your body, and your soul. And I think when you're so present, paying attention to your physical body and your mind is totally trained on that, that it gives you an opportunity to know your soul more. I'd like to close with a little reading from John O'Donohue, so continue relaxing. John O'Donohue is an Irish writer who's passed now, but I love his writings. This is his book of blessings. And this is for presence. Awaken to the mystery of being here and enter the quiet immensity of your own presence. Have joy and peace in the temple of your senses. Receive encouragement when new frontiers beckon. Respond to the call of your gift and the courage to follow its path. Let the flame of anger free you of all falsity. May warmth of heart keep your presence aflame. May anxiety never linger about you. May your outer dignity mirror an inner dignity of soul. Take time to celebrate the quiet miracles that seek no attention. Be consoled in the secret symmetry of your soul. May you experience each day as a sacred gift woven around the heart of wonder. If you have time to linger and lay for a little longer, Shavasana, they say, if you totally relax for at least 10 minutes, it's almost as good as taking a 2-hour nap. So I totally recommend at least 10 minutes, maybe 15. But I'm going to turn the video off here, and I really thank you for joining me and trying this today. And I recognize the beauty and the soul in each of you. Namaste.